Welcome back to another episode of Life in the Stands podcast. We have Bender, Beans, and Zach on the podcast today. We've had a hard time getting here tonight, but we're really excited to talk about some of the upcoming football games this weekend and some of the NFL games that happened last weekend. I'm not going to waste any time today. I'm going to let Beans jump right into the Niners narrowly squeaking out a win against a Packers team that's going to be good for a long time.
Yeah, I mean that was a great game. As a Niners fan myself, I was super, on the edge of my seat the entire time. I was at work for part of it, so I didn't get to see the whole thing, all at once. But um, I think that overall the game went well. I mean, I think the Niners needed a game where they kind of got their asses kicked for 3 quarters, and then Brock Purdy goes and puts the team on his back in the final drive to seal the double for the Niners. A lot closer, like I said, obviously than I thought it was going to be, based off of my expectations for the last podcast. But feel good about the Niners win. I feel really good about their chances in facing Detroit this week.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that game being close was the fact that Debo went out early. Um, I think that's going to make a big difference going into the next game as well. I think we just need to kind of see how this week pans out and see if he actually ends up being active for the game this weekend. I feel like their offense runs slightly differently without him. You can put him in different areas of the field just like you can with McCaffrey. I feel like
Mhm.
when Debo is also on the field, it also takes the load off of McCaffrey. So having to depend on CMC a little bit too much can kind of hinder you at times. It was good to see Kittle get into the end zone. At least you kind of know that he's available and still alive after a pretty slow season. So
Mhm.
I think it'll make a difference if he doesn't play, but we'll get into my prediction later.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into picks later. And since we are recording this ahead of time, let's just make some predictions about whether or not Debo Samuel actually does play or not, right? Because we're recording this on a Tuesday. These are obviously relevant for games that are happening on a Sunday. So if Debo does play or doesn't play, does that actually impact the outcome of the game for either of you?
Oh,
That'll be
100%.
something curious to see. I think when we do game picks in a little bit, maybe we should talk about both of those scenarios. And I think it'd be
Mhm.
interesting to see maybe how the game picks would change in that case. But yeah, I mean the Niners game against the Packers. I mean it was a really good game. I thought the Packers had it for the majority of the contest. They looked really good. I thought they ran the ball better than the Niners did for most of the time, most of the
Mhm.
game.
Yeah, five
But
yards per carry for Aaron Jones, I think.
yeah, I mean, Aaron Jones has had a heck of a end to the season this year, which is great to see. But I mean, yeah, the Niners have that championship grit and you have that championship caliber to that team right now, as you can see. And the Packers are still learning; they're still young, but they are going to be really good. And if you look at Brian
Gutekunst, yeah.
Gutekunst, right?
Yep.
That's how you pronounce that GM's last name. Everyone kind of crapped on him for the last couple of drafts that he's had when they first
Mhm.
got them, and seems like a pretty quick rebuild. You know, they got rid of A-Rod and they rebuilt pretty quickly. They have really good young court receiver. Jordan Love is obviously solid. Um, really good young tight end, and they
Two
can
solid backs.
build. Yeah, and two solid backs, and they could build around some pieces on defense yet. So, really good job there in
Mhm.
Green Bay. Really interesting. All right, let's move on to the next game then. Let's go back to an AFC game. Let's talk about the Texans and the Ravens. The Ravens looked really dominant again.
Yeah, I think I'm the one starting off on this one. I was didn't get to watch that game, kind of from what I've seen and everything like that, since the games happened. The Ravens kind of got us off to a little bit of a slow start, kind of like how the Niners did. Coming off of kind of 2 weeks rest. I don't think Lamar played in the last game of the year, in week 18. But I think that the Ravens in the second half, they just overpowered the Texans. I mean, they have more experience. They have, players who have been there before. John Harbaugh is a fantastic coach, and Dalvin Cook looks pretty good.
Yeah, that's an interesting take at the end there. Dalvin Cook didn't really see a lot of time this past weekend. However, I did say that was going to be help to that team, even though some others did not think that way. But I think Houston's defense was very impressive in the first half.
Mhm.
But I think both Harbaughs are actually very good at third quarter adjustments, even if you look at Michigan and their whole season as well.
Leave it to
Um,
Bender to bring Michigan up into an NFL podcast.
Look at him.
yes,
Look at
sir.
his
Always.
background. Look at him.
Hey, man. But no, I think they kind of just said screw it and went out and actually just put their foot on the gas. They didn't really have a lot of plays like quarterback design runs for Lamar in that first half. There were times where he had to get running just on basic rollouts or just getting out of the pocket. But in regards to QB design runs for him, second half is where it turned up a little bit. You could see the difference, and then Houston's defense just couldn't keep up. Um, they did have a good special teams play, but that still wasn't enough.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I think Baltimore didn't know entirely what to expect, so I think they came out with a kind of vanilla game plan in the first half, and then in the third quarter they're like, all right, like let's throw a little bit here, a little bit there, and then they made those couple of plays, and then they kind of went back to vanilla and just closed it out. I don't think there was ever a concern on that sideline about what the plan was or what they were going to do. I think, and I believe that because of the way that they've handled other AFC teams, because it's looked exactly like that. So I would not want to be playing, not want to be playing Baltimore. We'll get into that too. Let's jump over though to another NFC game: Buccaneers and Lions. Beans, let's hear it.
That's just kind of like what I talked about last week. I think that the Lions just, you know, they played to the expectation that they thought they were, and I don't think that the Bucks had enough answers on offense or defense to stop them. I think that it was a good game. I thought that Baker and Mike Evans had a pretty good connection on that, almost touchdown after he had that big drop. Um,
Mike Evans had a couple drops.
yeah, all easy. He makes the easiest catches look hard and the hardest catches look easy. It's crazy to me. But yeah, I
Bender, is
mean,
there some? If Bender would like to share any fantasy pain, now might be the time.
No, I was gonna say, talking about drops, we'll get into Stephon Diggs later, but I feel like Mike Evans was the reason they were even in that game because he still made big plays. So I wouldn't take too much credit away from him.
oh, never. I love Mike Evans. I mean, 10 1,000-yard seasons in a row. That dude's a monster.
It's
Yeah,
unreal.
you have to give him credit. I like the pairing between him and Baker,
Mhm.
especially going into next year. I think Mike Evans is actually a free agent going into next year, so I think
Is
they'll
it
find
Baker?
some.
Baker is too. You think they're bringing him
So
back
is
again?
Baker. I think
They're gonna
both of
bring
them go
Baker
to the
back, but
Steelers.
I think they need to bring Mike Evans back. Yeah, Baker to the Steelers would be crazy. Yeah, we can't go an
Baker and
NFL.
Mike Evans.
Hey, we can't go an NFL podcast without this guy bringing up the Steelers either, so it's fine. Um, but no,
Because the Steelers are always relevant, unlike Michigan.
all
So
right,
fun.
whatever. Anyway, but the always find a way to roast me on this podcast.
Hard
But
to
no,
do.
I think the Lions just kind of pulled away. I think they also kind of had a vanilla game plan in the first half as well. You could tell the adjustments they made in the second half, and the Buccaneers couldn't keep up on both sides of the ball, like Bean said. Mimic everything that Bean said on top of that. But I'm kind of worried for the Lions still going into the next game.
Beans, let me ask you a question. If there was one coach that you could play for on any of the remaining four teams, which coach would it be?
Andy Reid, because I know we'd get along the best.
Really? Andy Reid?
Plus, he'd let me catch a touchdown because I'm a lineman. He'd throw me a touchdown pass.
Yeah,
Hmm,
yeah, that's true.
that's funny.
Yeah. I would play for Dan Campbell, for sure. Bender, who'd you play
He,
for?
I just saw a couple highlights of him as a tight end playing back in the day. They said he was a playmaker. He
I
probably put those clips on ahead of the game next week so he can get those guys fired up.
Yeah, I would need to play for Campbell just to get me riled up a little bit before a game.
Yeah,
That's
dude,
what I would need.
he's and that's the exact reason why I might not be so concerned about what's going to happen next week to the Lions. But man, I just love Dan Campbell. I love that the Lions are winning. It doesn't matter what happens next week. They're in the NFC Championship game. They're going to keep building. I love it.
I saw a
It's
stat.
all
We
over.
might have to fact check this, but I think the Cowboys and the Commanders are now the only two teams in the NFC that haven't been to an NFC championship game this century. How do we feel about that, Bender?
We're not even going to give him a second to respond. We're going to jump into another cool fact that we saw on Twitter today. Another cool fact we saw on Twitter today was that every team in the NFL has replaced their offensive coordinator since 2022, since the
I have I
2022
have
seasons.
I have like a qualm against that because like I know that we had Mike McDaniel as our offensive coordinator, but he never called plays. So we've had the same offensive coordinator since 2017.
But I mean, but you've had a different coach in that designated seat. Brian Callahan, who got hired today, was the Bengals OC. He was the
Last one,
last
yeah.
remaining. Yeah, crazy,
What do you
crazy.
think? What do you think about that hire? Do you like that?
Um, I think it was a little rushed and a downgrade.
100% a downgrade, but it wasn't like the Titans fired Mike Vrabel. I think it was an amicable split. So I think Mike
I
Vrabel didn't want to stay in Tennessee for very much longer either.
Oh, you think he was out of there too? That would be interesting to see where Mike Vrabel might end up then. But
I'm
winning
still I'm
cures
still
all.
calling the shot and saying Washington. That's my goal. That's my guess.
Winning cures all. So we'll see how the new coach in Tennessee goes. But before Bender can make a comment about this, I'd like to go back to the Cowboys comment. Bender, do you have any response about the Cowboys not making an NFC Championship game this
This
century?
No,
century.
no, leave me alone.
Okay, all
Okay.
right, you can comment on this now.
No, I was gonna say I don't think it's the right hire. I think I agree with you guys. I think it's kind of a weird one. Um, but like to me, Matt LaFleur years ago was a weird one too.
Hmm.
So like there's a lot of weird hires that have panned out for a lot of teams.
I mean,
Um,
what do we think? Zach Taylor was a weird hire too when he got hired to the Bengals. I remember
yeah,
hearing people thinking that was a little bit too
We
like
thought Dan
lack of
Campbell.
like
rushed, right? Oh, the whole like, oh, if you got coffee with McVay, you're a head coach now or something like that.
Yeah.
like
Uh,
the rushed or just no experience at the head coaching position, like all that.
uh-huh.
And you saw how far the Bengals made it not too long ago as well. Joe Burrow.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we
I,
signed him
I
with Nick
like it from a
Sirianni. And now we
sorry.
know he's actually a ditz.
Yeah, my bad. I was gonna say like Will Levis being
Sorry.
a young quarterback in that system. I guess I understand that piece, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, let's go on to the last game. Chiefs and Bills, round 17.
Well,
Yeah.
that was another crazy game, man. I mean, I think the biggest play of the game, in my opinion, was that missed shot that he took in the end zone. We had Stephon Diggs open right underneath for the first down. I thought that was a little bit of a force down the field, and as he was doing that, he got hit, kind of threw it off a little bit. That's just that you can't make mistakes like that against Mahomes and expect to come out on top in the clutch. That was just
Bender
that's a tough one for the Bills, man. I feel
Bender
so.
Yeah,
looked like he had something to say about that.
yeah. First of all, I'm going to say that I'm the only one on this podcast that got the Chiefs prediction correct. So thanks, boys. But at the same time, I just think it's unfortunate for the Bills. Like I'm not a Bills hater. It just seems like what can go wrong will go wrong, kind of like the Cowboys and what Stephen A. says about them. I think also pertains to the Bills. And I feel like one year it's Josh Allen's fault. Another year it's you can't play defense for 12 seconds. And then this year, Stephon Diggs wants to chirp in the locker room, wants to chirp in Josh Allen's ear, and can't make a big moment play. Um, and then it's also the kicker. I get it. The wind, it's hard to kick in the wind. But I feel like you know that pregame. You know which direction it's going. You know which direction it's going even when you're out there the whole game.
Home kicker
So
too.
you need to know how to adjust. So like it's something different every year with them. Um, and I just also think the Chiefs have their number at this point. When was the last time you saw the Chiefs look like this all season? Because they didn't look like this
Yeah,
all
this is
season.
right. This is definitely the chance for the Bills to have overtaken the Chiefs. This is the year that they've had the best shot, and they just couldn't get it done. Kind of like how you said, Stephon Diggs one year, Josh Allen another year. I remember they were calling for Sean McDermott's head last year when they lost. They'll find a way to lose, just like the Cowboys, just like you said.
Yeah, and here's the other piece. Like the Bills added James Cook. Like where's the next addition that you think puts them over the top? Or do you like when do you realize you
Kicker.
have to blow this up? Okay, yeah, you can say the kicker. But when do you realize you have to blow this up? Because I just don't get it. Like is Diggs on the move? Is Josh Allen on the move? Is McDermott gonna get fired? Um, there's just a bunch of different things you can look at and be like, okay, how do you surpass the Chiefs? Because you're not worried about any other team if you're the Bills right now. Because guess who
Mhm.
you run into every year in the playoffs?
The Chiefs.
Yeah, you're not even looking at your own division anymore, which is like really uncommon for an NFL franchise because normally as an NFL franchise, you build your team around the idea that you have to compete in your division. That's 8 of your games every year. But
Especially
now,
with
like, yeah,
Miami. being in the 1 seed part of the year this year. Like it's just crazy that they can overlook.
Right.
Well, pause there
Right.
for a second. Like, we want to talk about this is the year for them to overtake the Chiefs. This is the year they had like a free run in the playoffs without having to worry about their division. With Aaron Rodgers getting hurt and Miami just collapsing, this was your
Right.
time to jump in there.
They couldn't get it done.
Yeah, they couldn't get it done. I think another big point to make out of this game too is Mahomes and Kelsey are inevitable, more inevitable than any playoff duo ever, which is insane
Mhm.
because they probably have at least a couple more in them, which is insane. So
They broke Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski's record, playoff
Mhm.
record for touchdowns for that duo.
yeah,
And
what they
just
have
think about,
17 now or 16?
yeah,
I think it's
I
16.
thought it was, 18, but I might be wrong.
Either
The
way, it's
record was
insane.
15 and they broke it, so 16 probably.
Yeah, I mean, Kelsey had 2 in the game, so
Hey, pretty
I think
Edwards come up next.
right. I think another interesting thing that I saw from that game, and then we can move on to our predictions for the AFC and NFC Championship games, was when I look at the Chiefs defense, they've gotten a lot younger. They've gotten a lot younger at
Oh
corner.
yeah.
They've gotten more athletic. I mean, some key pieces are still like you still got Chris Jones in the middle. You still
Hmm.
have Justin Reed there, but I
You got
mean,
two
they've
young
got
athletic fast linebackers with
yeah,
and Willie Gay.
they got Karlaftis there. I mean, so
Mhm.
they've gotten
He's
a
a
lot
bull.
younger recently. And I look at the Bills defense, and they've gotten a lot older. They still have Poyer back there, Micah Hyde,
Von
Trey,
Miller,
Trey White's
Trey
only
White.
getting older. Yeah,
Mhm.
Von
And
Miller, dude.
two season ending injuries in the past like I think 2 or 3 years or something like that for
Yeah,
Right.
Trey.
so
So
I actually,
I see a very different philosophy there on defense.
real quick, I retweeted this earlier. Von Miller's getting paid, and he got, I think, like 5 tackles this year and 0 sacks. And I get there's injuries, but you didn't do anything in the playoff game. Like, you didn't do anything like that. That's unacceptable. If
He
Micah
got paid
or
like
TJ
14
Watt or
million.
somebody, like you see Bosa making plays, like,
He was making
and
plays in the run game for sure.
I guarantee you, if he doesn't make those plays, he gets talked about. Why are we not talking about Von Miller, who's a Super Bowl champ?
Because we all know he's on the back end of his career and he's not going to be lasting very much longer.
Yeah,
No need to
he's
kick a
about
guy
done.
while he's down, you know.
It's true.
Doesn't matter.
It's sad, but it's true. Like Von Miller, I don't see how he comes back and has a productive season, like a whole season.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And yeah, like the whole stat thing with his pay. I saw that it was like his salary this year was like 14 million. So he got paid like $2.5 million for every tackle or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna find it.
I wish. I
Yeah, it's
wish.
insane. While Bender finds that stat, let's jump into the conference championship games. Let's stay in the AFC and talk about Chiefs Ravens first, and then we'll jump over and we'll wrap up with some beanie predictions for the NFC Championship game with the Niners. But Bender, were you able to find that tweet real quick before we jump into the AFC?
Yes, sir. Von Miller was paid 14.9 million this season and finished with 0 sacks, tackles in 14 games played. That is 2.98 million a tackle. That's what somebody tweeted out today.
Almost $3 million a tackle for 5 tackles.
If you pay me $15 million a year and my sole responsibility is to get more sacks than Von Miller had last year, I could do it by the end of the season.
You
I could
think?
get 1 sack in 17 games.
Yeah, you're a little quick. You're a little quick. I can see that.
In
Just
17
one.
games.
You
Think
just
about
need
it.
one.
Just one. You
Just
only need
one.
one. And I'll take a pay cut. I'll take half.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the return on investment. Double. I mean, an infinite amount of sacks more for half the price.
That's
All right.
yeah. You can't beat that.
You can't beat it. All right. Let's jump into the AFC. Chiefs and Ravens. Bender, who do you think wins the game?
I have the Chiefs in this one. If anybody's
Everybody
been
pick the
following,
Ravens. Everybody pick the Ravens. Money lines, Ravens, all of them. Go ahead, Bender.
no, but if anybody's been following the podcast, I do have the Chiefs and the 49ers in the Super Bowl. So none of these predictions should
Round
surprise
two.
anybody. But I think this is the year that Lamar falls short again. I mentioned that last week I had the Texans beating the Ravens. So that, I think that was the one pick I did get wrong last week. I just had a lot of faith in CJ Stroud. I feel like that'd also be a different game if Tank Dell was healthy. Tank
Mhm.
Dell made a big difference towards the first half of the season. So I hope he gets back healthy next year to have another good run with CJ Stroud. But no, I just think the Chiefs defense has played against a running style quarterback enough in Josh Allen to kind of adjust to Lamar's play. Josh Allen's a little bit more of a bigger, more powerful runner than Lamar. Um, there's a little bit more of a different scheme to it. You'll see a lot of different pistol formations and all that. You don't really see that with the Bills. There's a lot more weapons for the Ravens in regards to what Bean said earlier. Dalvin Cook was actually put in um, at fullback for the Ravens in a play against the Texans last weekend. And that's where like you can kind of confuse the defense a little bit more. You have three different options at that point between Gus Edwards, Dalvin Cook, and Lamar Jackson, who are all in the backfield together. So I just think scheming might be a little bit different, but I also think the Chiefs defense has proven themselves this season. Um, I just don't think it'll be anything they're not used to. And I think the Chiefs offense has finally clicked, which is a big deal and bad news for the Ravens.
This is gonna be a
Am I-
heavyweight fight. Beans, go ahead. Yeah, it's gonna be
Yeah,
it's gonna
so
be a really good game.
I kind of agree with some of the things you were saying, Bendy. We were talking about that the youth movement on the defensive side for Kansas City. You kind of paired that up with their defensive coordinator. He typically has defenses that start getting hot towards the end of the year, which is super great. You know, it helps the Chiefs, especially come playoff time and stuff like that. I just don't think with how young their defense is, though, that they're going to be able to stay as disciplined as they need to with a guy that has the escapability that Lamar Jackson does. Yeah, like Josh Allen definitely is a downhill runner. He's definitely a force to be reckoned with in that aspect. But I think that he doesn't come close to how Lamar handles pressure, how he gets out of tight spots, and how he can manipulate a defense on the back end later in the play to then make a big play.
Real quick, does anybody know if Mark Andrews is playing this weekend?
I have no idea, but Isaiah
Because I know
likely
he got
did.
he got back onto like the
Right.
um
Right.
They opened this practice window.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he
So
opened up in the IR.
I think he'll only come back if it's Super Bowl, I'd imagine, because they have that 1 week in between.
Yeah,
So I
he'll
think
have
that gives
3 weeks of rest basically from now until then.
yeah, I still think he would be the difference maker in this game coming up, but I just I don't know. Without him, I don't see them pulling it out.
I mean, Mark Andrews definitely brings a certain caliber of tight end play there and a certain comfortability level for Lamar, which I think is helpful. But you got to give credit to Isaiah Likely too. I think Isaiah Likely's been really good when he has been on the field. He's made some insane plays, some one-handed catches, and
Mhm.
I mean, he looks like
Yeah,
he could be the next big tight end in Baltimore too. They seem to always kind of have a young guy come in and take over the reins as their top guy's leaving, and I think he could probably be it for the next 8 years. So
yeah. I don't know
gotta
if
give
you
some
guys
credit
saw
there.
that play that he had where Lamar targeted him in the end zone, and it was kind of a low ball that could have been picked off the next possession. I mean, after that play, yeah, he said, "Go higher, throw it up a little bit for me."
Mhm.
Next drive when they were in the end zone, or in the red zone, Lamar lofted him one. He went up and got it. I mean, that guy is
Monster.
he's a baller. He's a baller for sure.
Yeah, he's gonna be good. And I mean, yeah, I think the other points you guys made about the Chiefs and Ravens game are really good too. This game will be in Baltimore,
Okay.
although I think a lot was put into the idea that it was Mahomes' first road playoff game last week, and I think he did kind of take that on the chin and wanted to prove a point. I think the youth movement in Kansas City, like you said, could also be difficult with how difficult it is to contain a mobile quarterback like Lamar. So I understand that point too. I think overall, though, I'm going to go with the championship medal here. And I'm going to go with the QB who always seems to have the other QB's number, and that's Mahomes over Lamar. I just, I can't see Lamar getting over that hump, even still. I know he's had a really good year, but I feel like Mahomes is the king. And he showed it the first week when Tua came to town and it wasn't even close, albeit in really cold weather with the Dolphins, but Chiefs still played well enough to win. And then he showed it again with Josh Allen on the road, and that was the end of it. And I think he's going to show it again on the road playing against another top AFC QB in Lamar. So we should go back here though, and well, actually no, let's jump into the next game. But there's a caveat to this game. Remember, with or without Debo. So we'll let Beans go first. You can give some explanations, but give a prediction then with or without Debo for the Niners.
So I think that I don't think there should be a lot of doubt with Debo in playing this game. I know that he had an MRI and, everything came back, negative. He didn't, there was some breaks or anything like that. It'll be tough. We won't really know, obviously, until tomorrow. I think that there's no chance he misses this game, but if he does, I still take the Niners regardless. Kind of going back to this Packers game, I think that with Debo and McCaffrey, they're kind of the yin and the yang to Kyle Shanahan's offensive scheme. And when you take one of those guys out, it really affects the cohesion and the homeostasis of the offense, right? So I think that if they know what the ability of Debo is going to be going into the game, they're going to be able to game plan around how healthy he is going to be. And I think we're gonna see a heavy dose of George Kittle, a heavy dose of Christian McCaffrey, because I don't think that the linebackers can cover like that. I think George Kittle's going to have a monster game, regardless of Debo's in or out. And I think it's going to be the Niners over the Lions. I'll even throw a prediction in there. I'm putting 31-24 Niners.
Yeah. So I actually agree with Beans here. I think with or without Debo, they still win. Um, I think it's kind of cool that the Lions have made it this far. That was also one of my predictions, way too early predictions as well, if anybody remembers that. I had them making the conference championship game. Don't have them winning it. So even if Debo's on the field, which I'm 90% sure he's going to play this weekend, that's based off of the medical information that I know of at this point, the MRI and everything. Like Bean said, I expect him to play. At what capacity? I don't know. Even if he's on the field, even just to be a decoy, just to run like a fake jet, anything
Makes a
to
difference.
get the defense moving, I think will be helpful for everyone else, which I think is also why Kittle's going to have a big game. Um, for this score prediction, since Beans gave one, I'm actually going to give one as well. With or without Debo, same score. I'm going to go 31-27 instead.
Hmm.
Oh, slightly closer game.
Another Brock Purdy game-winning drive, I see.
I think the
Could be.
defense stops Jared Goff on a game-winning drive.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. If we go back to my Super Bowl predictions, I think my Super Bowl prediction was Lions Bills, if I remember correctly. So I'm going to take the Lions in this game. And I'm going to take the Lions in this game because this is the exact kind of game that every single player on the Lions roster has wanted to play since they joined the roster this year under Dan Campbell. Going into an NFC Championship game where no one is picking the Lions on the road with the whole world against you, that really does a lot for a team. And I don't think the Lions, talent wise, are that far behind the 49ers. I know that sounds crazy to say, but the Lions were 12-5 this year too, and have a lot of young rookie talent. And if you look across the defensive line, and you look across the secondary, and you look across the receivers and the running backs, you see some similarities in play styles and in explosive ability. And the experience level is a lot different, and the championship caliber is a lot different. But I don't think the talent level is that far off. And I think the Lions come into this game pissed off. So for a score prediction, and just to be, just to predict the opposite of you two, I'm going to take Lions 27. So a match bender score there at 27. But I'm going to go Niners 24. So Lions 27, Niners 24. That's what I'll take.
I don't think you can go wrong with whatever team you choose in this matchup. I think this is also
Yeah, you
another
can.
heavyweight. Um, yeah, but so like here's the thing. I think if you're looking at two teams, and I think Beans talked about this as well, right around start of playoff time. I think it was like the first episode we had you on. Which teams don't you want to see? You mentioned the Rams.
Hmm.
I think the other team you had to think about was the Lions. Now that the Lions are here, I think they are a match for the Niners. That's why I have it being a close game. I just don't think
Right.
the Lions are there yet. I
Yeah,
think it's good that
I don't think it's
they
any
beat
type of blowout
expectations.
or anything like that. I think it's going to
They,
be a pretty good game. They have a pretty similar styles of play. I mean, like you said, Dan Campbell, he's an old, run it down your throat, play defense type of coach. I think the biggest difference maker is going to be how well that O-line of the Lions handles the pressure of the 49ers defense. Jared Goff has notoriously looked bad against the Niners and in pressure in general. I'm just very curious to see how Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson kind of go about a game plan of, making sure that that's not something that we can exploit on their offensive side of the ball.
Well, that's where, for me, big players make big plays. And I think, in regards to me saying that they're going to get stopped on a game-winning drive, like Jared Goff's going to get stopped,
Hmm.
we saw Bosa make plays in the run game. We also saw Armstead make big plays in the Packers game. So it's always somebody different for the Niners, too. Like, that next game could be Fred Warner. Like, you just never know who's going to step up into that spot. But I feel like they have guys that have and will step up in the moment and close the game out.
Beans, how old is Eric Armstead? Is he 60 now?
I think he's like 31. He was our first round pick, I think number 17 overall in 2015. He's our longest tenured player, and he was the one that got Jordan Love off his spot on that 3rd and 10 when he threw that ball behind, I think it was Aaron Jones to give us the ball back. He's a stud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Eric Armstead is very good. Another question. Do you guys hear this?
Yeah.
You hear the laughter?
I kind of hear it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so that's something we'll have to play around with in a later time, but I just wanted to see if that's legit or not. But either way, yeah, the NFC and the AFC Championship games are going to be really, really good. I think that the total spread between both games is
10
less than
points.
7 points. I'll say less than 7
7.
because
Damn.
I think both games end within 3. So if both
Okay.
games end
Right.
within
The
3,
less than a
I'll
touchdown.
take a less than 7. Right, I'll take a less than 7. Yeah. But yeah, I think that they end up being like they're both relatively close games. They're both definitely close games. They're both definitely good games. High championship caliber teams, high talent levels. You're not going to see a whole lot of mistakes. I think then you're going to see high level football, really high level football.
Real quick, because we didn't give one. Before we close out the show, each of you give your score prediction for the Chiefs Ravens game.
Chiefs Ravens game. Let me go first. 41-45 Ravens. Shootout.
Jesus. Holy moly. Okay.
In a wintry Baltimore, he says shootout.
Shootout.
Ooh,
All
I
right,
got mine.
Yeah, I'll go next here because then you can wrap us up. I think so. I mean, I said it's going to be within 3, and I said that I think the Chiefs pull it out. I'll go by the same score that they won by this past week, 27-24, and the same score as the Lions and the Niners game, 27-24. It's a magic number.
Okay. I
Not
have
hard to me.
I've got the Chiefs winning this one 23-20. I think there's going to be a lot of field goals kicked in that game. I think there's going to be a lot more defense than you guys think.
In the
Um,
snow, you think there's gonna be more field goal attempts than the going for it with those
yeah,
two quarterbacks?
I think so.
Bender just really likes Justin Tucker.
Yeah,
He has a
Yeah.
Carolina.
similarly shaped head.
We both went and clear that man's head at the same time. Both
Mm,
missed.
what else is new, to be honest with you?
Not that
Congrats
hairline,
to
man.
Michigan winning the
Same old,
national
same old.
championship. Hopefully, they don't have another one for a century.
Oh my goodness. Y'all are different. Anyway, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at stands_life. Don't forget to follow and subscribe on Spotify and YouTube at Life in the Stands Podcast. Thank you guys.